So the Queen died, and yesterday became a Twitter holiday. Now, Twitter holidays are not scheduled like other holidays. They just kind of happen. It's when there's a world event and everyone gets on Twitter, and it is the funniest place to be. Usually scrolling on Twitter is pretty bad for your mental health, but on these special days, it's good for your mental health. So let's consume some of that content. Here's a tweet. Tonight, a brand new bombshell enters the villa. And if you're not familiar with this reference, Love Island is a dating show where a bunch of folks in the UK are put in a villa and they always have new contestants coming in and out. So that one's a good one. The next one's amazing. Diana, open up these pearly gates right now.
That was too much. It's too much. It's too fun. I feel like all of a sudden I'm on holiday. Twitter holiday.
Then, hard-hitting ones. Nations, everyone in England is distracted. It's the perfect time to get your stuff back from the British Museum. Amazing. This one is from John Itarola. Queen Elizabeth won't see her funny little tweets about her dying, but her 4-year-old great-grandson, Prince Louis of Cambridge, will, because I'm breaking into Balmoral Castle and reading them all out loud to him. So good. This next one, it's Kobe crossing the Queen on the steps to heaven. That's a personal favorite. I love that one. This next one, he's got the fit laid out, ready to become the king the next day. This is Prince Charles last night. So good. This one I really like. I think the Queen would want us to all live the way she did, with free public housing, universal basic income, and full government health care. And we're going to get into this in a second, but Jeff Bezos was pretty angry with how people were responding to Twitter. But first, Cenk, what do you think of all these tweets so far?
Come on, they're fun. When I first heard Twitter holiday, I actually didn't know what it was. I thought it was like taking a holiday from Twitter, which, believe me, a lot of people need that. But it turns out it's even better because it's when you actually have fun on Twitter. Okay, that's a nice twist. That's a twist that 2022 didn't know it needed. So in terms of the Queen, I have a couple of thoughts on that in terms of, hey, are you allowed to make fun of the Queen on Twitter? Is that allowed? A, yes, it's called a free country. Look into it. B, our media, understandably, and I'm going to tell you why it's understandable, has a reverence for the powerful. So if you in any way tweak the powerful, they'll get super mad. But that's mainstream media. And social media has real people on it. It also has a lot of non-real people and bots and trolls, et cetera, on it. But it also is mixed in with actual human beings. And actual human beings say whatever the hell they want, right? Mainstream media does not like that. If you go after politicians, they hate it, right? You go after the Queen, she's even more powerful. That's just outrageous. How dare you? Now, were they as tough on the Queen when the British Empire mowed down innocent civilians decade after decade after decade? Not as tough, because those are the powerless. And they're not in the same club as all the millionaire anchors on television. They're not in the same club as the mainstream media and the establishment. So when the empire is rolling over you, they have a lot less sympathy for a person who died. But if it's a powerful person who died, hey, you're not allowed to say that, right? And so that's what I love about new media and digital media. There aren't those gatekeepers who are the guards of the powerful and the elites.
Absolutely. For centuries, it's been a one-sided class war where the elites and the ruling class in colonizing countries like the UK, Queen Elizabeth included, have brutalized people, exploited their labor, turned them into slaves, extracted all of the resources in their country, committed genocide, and colonized their countries and then destabilized them and left them without those resources and kept the flows of extracting labor and exploiting resources just without being named a colonizer of that country. And many people were pointing this out on Twitter. Before we go to graphic 8, I want to explain some background for this. So there was a professor, Uygur Anya, who tweeted, I heard the chief monarch of a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating. That tweet was taken off of Twitter for violating the Twitter rules. Jeff Bezos responded, this is someone supposedly working to make the world better? I don't think so. Wow. So yeah, Jeff, teaching accurate history and standing up to injustice in our country actually does make the world better. You have workers dying in your warehouses. Disgusting. And so someone, thankfully, on a Twitter holiday, as horrible as that is, they can make a joke of it. And so let's go to graphic 8. Is Jeff Bezos appalled by Twitter's reaction to the death of Queen Elizabeth? Or if Jeff Bezos is appalled by Twitter's reaction to the death of Queen Elizabeth, just wait till Jeff Bezos sees Twitter's reaction to the death of Jeff Bezos. Other people making the case, someone said, please be respectful when talking about the Queen. She was a head of state, a monarch, a mother to multiple pedophiles, and most importantly, a devoted cousin to her husband. Someone else really said it as concisely as you can. We're not being insensitive. We're decolonizing your grief. And I'm not sure if we have a graphic of this, but today I took the time to compile a list of every single country that was still a colony during the time that Queen Elizabeth was in power. It is a lengthy list. It is over 50 countries long. It is disgusting that people are framing her legacy as the person who ended the imperial rule of Britain. That's absolutely not what happened. She came to power in 1952, and Britain remained a colonizing country until just as recently as, I'm not sure if Namibia was the last one, but there were colonies into the 2000s. And still, the UK is exerting rule over these countries in an outsized way. Just because they're not regarded as the current colonizer doesn't mean that there are not multinational corporations coercing the government to allow them to continue exploiting labor and extracting resources.
Yeah. So it's amazing that no one checked why the professor wrote what she wrote, including Jeff Bezos. She's originally from Nigeria, and the British killed half her family. That might be a pretty good reason not to love the Queen. But look at how powerful propaganda is, because and this is way before mainstream media. You know, the saying "the winners write the history books" is very literal. So the kings would tell their subjects for time immemorial, "I was chosen by God, and insulting my name should get you executed." It is the greatest offense. It's not just that it gets you executed; it's that it's deeply immoral. You can never speak ill of the monarch, of the head of state. They are special and chosen. But in our time, when we all know that's absurd, they did that brainwashing of their subjects so that their subjects would give them endless taxes and their bodies and their lives for their wars so that they could steal from other subjects. It was propaganda 101. And yet to this day, our media continues that propaganda. Oh, reverence for the Queen, the Queen. And people's feelings are going to get hurt. No. Everyone bow down to the powerful. Now, why does Jeff Bezos join in on that? Being one of the top 2 richest people in the world, he's among the powerful. So he wants you to bow down to him, be respectful of him, and know your role. Now, was the British Empire actually magnanimous, as Tucker Carlson argued today, let alone most of media? Well, they had the First and Second Opium Wars, the Boer concentration camps, the Armistice Massacre, the resettlement of the Chinese people in Malaysia, the invasion of Tibet, torture centers in Yemen, the Cyprus internment campaign, the brutal crushing of the Iraqi rebellion, and the Bengal famine, let alone everything they did in India. Or not everything, like I said, we talked about earlier in the show. They also had some positive things that they did in India and some other countries, but they had massacre after massacre, and they stole the natural resources of every country they were in. They weren't there out of charity because they really wanted to help Nigeria and India. No, they were there to take all of their stuff The stuff that's in the museums is the least of it. It was the natural resources they came for and that they stole from the people. So now we're supposed to show reverence for that.
The Tucker Carlson, yeah, that clip that you just mentioned was insane. The way that it's been framed to people in the United States is that Africa was a primal place, a place without civilization, and then the colonizers came in, and when they left, things were bad again. That's how Tucker Carlson has framed it. We don't have an accurate teaching of African history in the United States. Our world history classes cover Western civilizations. And I'm super lucky that when I was in college, my mentor is the nephew of Patrice Lumumba, who was killed by the CIA in the Congo because they were fighting the colonial rule of Belgium. And there is solidarity among the ruling class globally. As we can see, Jeff Bezos defending the Queen is an example of this as well. But if you look into African history, what was going on in Africa before they were colonized? They had the first universities in the country. They were teaching arithmetic and math and sending people to higher education, to university, far before anyone else in the entire world. And colonizers came in and destabilized those countries, extracted all of their resources, exploited all of their labor. We're talking about the same thing again. And then Tucker Carlson has the nerve to say that the British Imperial Empire wasn't as bad as other empires, and they in fact helped the people of Africa. And now that the UK has left, things are bad again, and that's how we're going to remember the Queen. It's just not an accurate telling of history. And the more we allow this narrative to dominate our telling of history, the more susceptible we are to letting people like Jeff Bezos and the ruling class in the United States continue to control our politics and our economy. It's really important to have accurate telling of history, and this is precisely why Republicans are fighting CRT so hard.
Yeah, one last thing about this. You know, the Tuckers of the world, and by the way, the textbooks of the world say, oh, yeah, you know, the British Empire and the other empires, they were so successful because they brought democracy and civilization and Christianity, which Tucker repeated last night, to the developing world. And that's why they were such amazing empires. No, there's two reasons why the British had an empire as large as they did. And it ain't got nothing to do with Christianity or democracy. Did they give democracy to the people that they colonized? No, by definition, they didn't. We all had to rebel against them to govern ourselves, including America, right? No, the two things that they had that created the empire were guns and, honestly, banking. So it's too long to explain why those made all the difference, although it's kind of obvious. But if you read the book Sapiens, it has an excellent explanation at the end of how London, through their banking system and through weaponizing gunpowder, which originally was just for fireworks in China, took over the whole world literally at the point of a gun.
Yeah, that book is by Yuval Noah Harari. I'm a fan of it as well. He's a good writer. But I agree with Professor Anya here. And what has been asked upon the Queen, that her pain be excruciating, is 1/1 millionth of what the royal family has done.